So what I'm going to talk about briefly tonight is the Antikythera Mechanism, which is a device that was discovered off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901 by a group of sponge divers who stopped there because of a storm that drove them to look for shelter. The device is remarkable because it is actually an ancient computer. It is the first known computer in human recorded history. It's not an electronic computer as we're familiar with. It's actually a mechanical computer consisting of gears, but a highly ingenious gear mechanism of a like we've never seen before, or frankly, not since. So, it has a multitude of functions, including it can do calendaring, which some of you who have looked into that are probably realize it's not a simple problem to solve. It can keep track of the Greek games. It was developed by the ancient Greeks, this device. So if you've heard the Olympic Games, well, there were other games as well, like the Rhodian Games, stuff like that. This device is capable of keeping track of all of that. It also tracked the motion of sun, moon, and planets, and this is particularly interesting this year, it can predict eclipses, both lunar and solar. So, oops. Now, all we found of the device, well, all the sponge divers found was that mess that you see down in the bottom right-hand corner there. Not much left of it. So what happened is they reconstructed it. I'm going to give you the history shortly, but first let's just talk a little bit about the device, what it can do, what makes it so amazing. It's been reconstructed, and this is what it looks like. The first frame is the front of the device. The second frame is a look at some of the internals, and this third frame is the back of the device. The front of the device has a set of dials on it. It has a hand crank mechanism that drives the gears, and the back of the device has two dials on it. So what's the point of all that stuff? What were the Greeks thinking of when they constructed it? Well, first off, let's look at the front dial. The front dial could track motion of sun, moon, planets, as understood at that time by the ancient Greeks. It is believed to be based upon the Babylonian models, which is not surprising because the Babylonians, some of you may have heard, actually discovered the forerunner of calculus, which may stun some of you who think of Newton and Leibniz. Yes, it is true that they were the ultimate developers of the calculus, but the Babylonians actually used a basic form of calculus concepts to track the motion of Jupiter. The Greeks learned from them, and it helped them build this device. So, as I said, there's a sun pointer, there's planetary dials, a zodiac scale, calendar scale, and a moon pointer. It could track all that stuff on the front of the Antikythera mechanism, all using just gears, a mechanical computer. Now, the back of the computer, that's where things get more intricate. This is the part of the computer that actually does the calendaring, and it has a calendar that was called the Metonic calendar on it. It also tracked all the various types of games around the Greek world, the Hellenic world at that time. And it could predict, as I noted earlier, both solar and lunar eclipses. So think about that. The Great American Eclipse, this device can predict it. That's pretty extraordinary for its time. And the back dial, here's a little bit more about the back dial. It has a small wheel that is what makes the eclipse mechanism work. And this is a gear diagram of the internals of the Antikythera. Very messy. But it was an act of supreme genius to think of it. I mean, think of this. You have a crank, you have a set of gears, you drive that crank, and those gears can accurately produce all this information simultaneously. So, as you turn your crank, you're tracking the motion of the solar system objects. You know what date it is. You can predict when the game, you know when the games, Olympic Games and other games of the Hellenic world will fall. And you can predict eclipses with this thing. All just by cranking a dial, or turning a hand crank. Now, where did this thing come from? Well, as I said, first off, it was discovered in 1901 in an ancient wreck off the island of Greek island Antikythera. And initially, they didn't even know what they had. They discovered a lot of artwork, and it intrigued them, so they kept on looking through this thing, and they discovered this rusted hunk of metal about the size of a shoebox that had gears in it. And they were like, well, that's pretty interesting, so let's bring it to the surface and let's have a look at it. And they realized it probably had something to do with astronomy, but they had no idea what it really was or how it worked. And in 1976, Jacques Cousteau visited the site. I'm sure many people have heard of Jacques Cousteau, inventor of scuba diving, the adventures of the ship Calypso. He investigated the site thoroughly, and he dredged up coins that helped us date when the shipwreck occurred. The coins are dated from around 70 BC. So we know the shipwreck occurred in that time frame. In 1971, there was a gentleman named Derek J. de Sola Price. He x-rayed the mechanism. He is able to count the number of teeth in the gears, and he begins making conjectures as to what the device actually did. At this point, no one knows what it does. People just say, hey, this is really cool. We think it is anyway. And in fact, de Sola Price, he's the first one that began to realize, wait a minute, this may be some kind of serious astronomical computer that we have here. In 1974, he publishes a paper postulating it's a computer. However, it's not yet widely accepted because even though he used X-rays and such, there was still missing evidence. 2005 was when the big breakthrough came that confirmed de Sola Price was correct. They used X-ray tomography, and they were able to go through the Antikythera mechanism layer by layer and determine what was really inside of it, as well as read the inscriptions inside the mechanism. So now they know what the purpose, at least a good part of what the purpose of the mechanism was. It's extraordinary. That's the recent history of the Antikythera mechanism. Now, where did the thing come from? It's genius. 30 years at least. We know there's some pieces missing. So where did it actually come from? Who built this thing and why? Well, first off, the shipwreck itself off the island of Antikythera, they've recovered artifacts that suggest it came from Asia Minor, was stopped in the Greek city of Rhodes. How many of you have heard of the Colossus of Rhodes? One of the ancient wonders of the world was there. Well, guess what? They believe this is another ancient wonder of the world that came from Rhodes. And pointers, and the way that they determined that the Antikythera mechanism likely came from Rhodes is by the following. First off, pointers for the Rhodian Games, which is Rhodes, City of Rhodes version of the Olympic Games, are on the back dials. Secondly, the mechanism itself uses a thing called Hipparchus' lunar model. Hipparchus was a great Greek astronomer from the city of Rhodes who came up with a mechanical mechanism for modeling the motion of the moon. That's very good evidence. And the Antikythera mechanism incorporates that gear model from Hipparchus. Then, parts of the mechanism could only be used for latitudes below 37 degrees north, which eliminates all ports but Rhodes. Now, that doesn't mean it did come from Rhodes. We're still not 100% certain, but at this point, the current thinking is that's the most likely port of origin, was from the city of Rhodes. The question then is, who actually created this device? And the answer is, we don't know, but we do have some theories about it. One obvious person that could have created it would be Hipparchus himself. As has been noted, it would have taken a world-class astronomer to create this mechanism, to understand the motions of the body, the passage of time, all that stuff, and actually put such a mechanism together with all these intricate gear works that can correctly and accurately model it. So Hipparchus is definitely a candidate. However, there is another great astronomer of that age of Rhodes, also Posidonius. he also could have built the Antikythera using the work of Hipparchus as a springboard. So we don't know which one of them. Or it could even be a third party, perhaps working with one of these two gentlemen that came up with the Antikythera mechanism. Again, we're not 100% sure, but the current thinking is it was probably either Hipparchus or Posidonius. Some of you may be wondering, what about Archimedes of Syracuse? He's been largely eliminated for a variety of reasons, from considerations being one of the creators of the Antikythera mechanism. So that's it. I forgot a question slide. Are there any questions?
Yeah, other than the discovery of the actual object, is there anything in writing that was ever done about this?
You mean from ancient history?
Yeah.
No, but we do have the writing on the object itself, which gives us clues. That's a very good question. The answer is no. We do not at this time see any writings that refer to this mechanism, which is actually considered the most extraordinary mechanism of ancient world, a computer of all things, so you would think. But no, that's one of the mysteries of the Antikythera mechanism. Why is there something else?
Could you describe the mechanism itself? How big was it?
The size of a shoebox. It was the size of a shoebox with a hand crank and a dial, one dial on the front for the sun, for the solar system objects, and a set of dials on the back for calendars, games, and the eclipses. Sir?
The eclipses, does it refer only to those that were visible in some particular section, or does it refer to all of them?
Right now, my understanding is only to those visible in that section, in that latitude there.
You should repeat the questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, the question was, does this refer to all eclipses around the world, or just eclipses visible in that part of the world? My understanding at this time is just eclipses in that part of the world. It only works in those low latitudes there. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a comment. I have a mic just a second.
Sure.
Along the same vein, if you ever find yourself in Mountain View, California, there is a very interesting place called Computer History Museum. Oh, that's what I'm Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California. In that museum, they have a working model of Charles Babbage's difference, a huge mechanical computer. And there are only two of them that are ever made. Babbage has never got any government support for his idea. But two of them were made, and one is in Europe, in London, and the other one is in California. The one in California at the Computer History Museum is the only one that works. They managed to build it, and it works very, very well. It's a fascinating thing to see if you're ever out there.
I've heard of the work of Charles Babbage to study computer science, so that is interesting. Okay, I see one from that side.
Okay. To make such a device, it requires some machining and metalworking skills that are amazing. Is that known to have existed in the ancient world, in Rose, for instance?
Okay, the question was, it took extraordinary skills of machining and metalworking to create such a device. And were those skills known to exist in the ancient world? Yes, they were. The ancients, but this is something that's relatively new that we know this about the ancients. I've studied a lot of ancient history and recent discoveries. It's only been in recent times that we've learned what the ancients are really capable of doing. So the answer to your question is yes, but that's a relatively recent discovery. One more question?
Just in case people want to go see it, I've forgotten where it is. Can you tell us all where it is now?
The Antikythera Mechanism? It's in the museum in Greece. And let me tell you how to find more information on it. I meant to put up a slide there. I just was doing this in a hurry. Go to Google, search Antikythera Mechanism. You will find the main website for it. And there they will have more information on where you can find it, where you can see it.
It's in the National Museum in Athens.
Yes, that's correct. It's considered one of their great treasures of antiquity. Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much.